Greetings from the C.M. Russell Museum. I'm Executive Director Tom Figarelle, and welcome to another installment of the 2020 Art in Action Artist Showcase. Given the COVID dynamics of 2020, we're conducting a remote Art in Action event, which I think all of you know. This event is a variation of a traditional quick draw, where artists have several hours to finish a piece of art while interacting with guests. And it's this last piece, the interaction with guests, that we're trying to recreate here in a virtual format where you get a sense of the personality, creativity, and spirit of our artists, all in an effort to bring you as close to the Russell Exhibition and Sale and Art in Action as we possibly can. Art in Action is sponsored by D.A. Davidson Companies, who supports all of our education programming here at the C.M. Russell Museum. And today we're joined by artist Donna Howell Sickles. Donna, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, you know, given the environment and everything that we have going on in our world today, just how are you doing? How are you enduring these times?
I'm doing well. Most of the time when you tell an artist that they have to go to their studio and stay there, we'd be like, really? But now you have to go, now you add the little element of, but you can't go anywhere else, then you're like, oh, okay. But it's been good for me creatively. It's taken a lot of time demands of travel and other things away. So it's truly been a time of self-reflection where you can go, okay, this is what I do. This is all I want to do. Do I still want to do this? How could I do this better? What are my goals beginning right now, realizing that our art world has changed, period. We don't know what's coming next. So I kind of have gotten to a place with me and my art where I'm like, this is what it means to me. This is what else I think I want to accomplish. And now's the time to start. So in light of that, I'm doing a lot of things that I had meant to do over the years, but never quite gotten around to. I've done pieces of Just the Cowboys, because that's an icon that's been dealt with by so many people. I never felt that was part of the story I needed to tell, but it's an undeniably appealing icon. And there are men in my pieces, whether they're on the canvas or the paper or not. There's always for me, the feeling of the wholeness of humanity, male and female. So just devoting a few pieces just to that male energy has been challenging, because I've not memorized the body like I've memorized the female body. So there are differences, and you get it on the paper and you're like, why doesn't that look right? And slowly you sort out the proportions that are just automatic for the female figure for me. So it's been a challenge. It's been hard to make them not all way too cute, but I'll get through all of that. It's been fun. It's shocking to me what different response the audience has to a male image than to one of my female images. So I'm anxious to show more people. That's the only thing that I truly, truly miss, is getting to talk to people about your artwork.
Well, interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Donna. I mean, you know, so it really sounds like you've taken advantage of this introspective period to kind of push some of your boundaries as an artist, right? To find some new areas where you can explore.
I am trying to do that, yes.
Well, and
you spend a lot of your career as an artist busy, you know, in production and doing stuff that is what you want to say, and it is your art, but it's also dictated by where you're selling and what you're selling. So this has been a circumstance where it's no one's fault. It's not the gallery's fault that the artwork's not moving terribly fast. It's not your fault the artwork's not. It's just a no-fault thing. So it's given me this big period of time now to just play.
Well, good for you. And I commend you for taking advantage of the circumstances in a very constructive way. I think a lot of us, as we've been, you know, faced with our own challenges of social distancing, even some folks quarantining, if you can find a way to enrich yourself through that process, through those constraints, you're all the better for it. And I think a lot of research and recommendations out there is that's exactly what we should be doing. So I really commend you, Donna, and that sets a great example, I think, for all of us. You know, you're surrounded by some artwork there. And I know that, Art in Action is a unique event for us. Can you just share with our listeners, the folks out there, why Art in Action? What does it speak to for you as an artist? And why is it maybe different than the conventional events that you participate in?
It's definitely performance as much as it is art. In your own studio, you're not interacting with a crowd, and you're not going, inception to finish in one short time frame. You're letting things kind of bump around. So with a quick draw event where you're going from start to finish, you've got to have a pretty good idea of where you want to go. That's not the format where you would try something you'd never tried before. Like, I should not try to draw a guy for a quick draw. Bad idea. So, and I also, when I'm getting ready for quick draws, and I don't do that many, I think the first one I ever did was in Cody for an event, and way back in the 90s. And I thought maybe I was going to have a heart attack before that was over, but I lived. And it's actually become a fun event because, as an artist, you can do this, you can push yourself that hard. It's not that you want to run a marathon every day, but you could at least once a month or once a year. So I get a feel for where I'm going to be, and I just try to let the images that I associate with that area just kind of float around for a while, and then I pick a direction. But I typically don't start one of these until I actually am on site. I don't plan it out at events because there might be something happens or that is said that really flashes an image in your brain or in my brain that I want to work on. So I kind of leave a little bit of it till the very end, and then just jump in there and, kind of with that heart-stopping anxiety and see what happens.
Well, that's fascinating, and that's an interesting approach. I mean, I would imagine that, there's a little bit of pressure that can foster creativity. And, certainly then just taking in those surroundings, you can find new inspiration as well. Can you just share, what are you working on today?
Do you mean in the entire studio or just here?
Yeah, with just that piece, if you wouldn't mind sharing, or any pieces, frankly, that you think would be interesting.
I've been doing a lot of bison lately. Not quite sure the why, but when images are rocking around in your head, that's where you should be. You should pay attention to that stuff. So I've started a piece that has like a bison head on each side with a cowgirl in the center. A little bit of it reflects the anxiety of today's world, in that things are pushing in on us from all sides, and we truly do not know how to handle this, but we're going to do the best we can. So it's not using these like, she's not a tourist in Yellowstone. It's not a poor decision. This is just simply a statement about where we are right now. So I'm going to try to get the menace, perhaps that's the wrong word, to get the strength of the bison and that uncontrollable force that they have without making it feel lethal for her.
Interesting.
So her body attitude is going to have to be a little more relaxed than it is right now, and a little more playful to pull that off.
So the bison is really representing a threat, right? Kind of the risks that many of us are facing in our world today.
There are things in the natural world that are not necessarily evil or benign. They just are a force to be dealt with.
Sure.
So that's kind of the idea.
Well, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I mean, and I think that's going to speak to so many folks, right? Because we have to recognize the pressures and the constraints and the anxieties, the risks that we have around us today. And in some respects, that's a good thing, right? Recognizing the risks, particularly with the pandemic.
Forcing us all to grow.
Yes, exactly. Well, Donna, you've kind of alluded to your growth as an artist using this time to explore different subject matter, maybe delve into some areas of your art that you maybe hadn't had that opportunity to do so before. But, can you speak a little bit about your overall creative process? How do you take an idea, just like the concept that you've shared with us right now, and put it on to your art? Where does it go from beginning to end? And if you could just share that process, I think folks would find that fascinating.
The ideas kind of pop into your head, either from photographs that you take, or photographs that I take, or things that I see. I walked out into the parking lot out in front of my studio is the downtown square. And so I walked out the other day and there was a white pickup truck with 2 cow dogs in the back. And you know how they tend to sit up as high as they can get. So they were both on the toolbox, patiently waiting. You know, they didn't have a lead or anything. They were just patiently waiting for their owner to come out of the gun shop. So I just looked at them sitting there. They're perfectly aware of everything around them, but none of that, they didn't see any of it as their job. So they were just quite calm. And I thought, there's got to be a great painting in there somewhere. So I took photos of those dogs from a couple of different angles. And, you know, so using that, then I'll be looking for what's the central figure, because that's obviously the background story. Are those 2 guardians and companions in their elevated height like that? Puts them at the top of a piece of artwork. So what happens down here? How do I engage the audience and tell the story about those guardians through something or someone standing in the foreground? So that's kind of how, that's the most recent beginning that I have. And I'm really thinking that that story may suit those cowboys I've been drawing lately. So if I had a cowboy leaning against the edge of that truck, where you could see, I don't know if this will work or not, because I've not tried it even on a sketch format yet, but where you can see the curve of the tire behind one leg, and that would be kind of like that circle of life business that would tie in nicely with the guardians. So that would be a start to a canvas that may or may not happen, but that's how that works for me.
Well, Donna, thank you for sharing that. That's fascinating. And I think people really enjoy kind of a peek behind the curtain, if you will, on how artists approach that, because everybody has their own creative process. And thank you.
So I forgot the 4th question.
You know, that was it, Donna. That was it. You know, just an opportunity for us to just share your personality, your creative approach, and your work with our audience, all as we lead into the 2020 Art in Action. So for everyone out there, we thank you for joining us. We thank our sponsors, D.A. Davidson, for sponsoring the overall Art in Action and all the educational programming here at the C.M. Russell Museum. Each of our artists have individual sponsors that benefit the museum as well. Bob and Martha Rasmussen have generously sponsored Donna's work at the auction, which provides benefit for the C.M. Russell Museum. So we want to thank Bob and Martha for their longtime support to the museum. Please tune in for our next artist showcase. And Donna, thank you again for your time and your participation in Art in Action.
You're very welcome, and I would like to thank Bob and Martha too. That they've been a long-time supporters of my work, and it's just a delight that they're still that interested.
Oh, absolutely. They're beautiful people, and we're sad that we won't see them like all of our patrons, really, but it's nice that we can keep in touch remotely. Donna,
Yes, well,
thank you again.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm looking forward to seeing all of them.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You be well, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.